How's it going, everybody? Papa Wall Street back with another weekend review. And today I wanted to do something slightly different. I'm going to take you through my watch list this week for the coming week. And right now I think we have around 43 names. And this is kind of my process every Sunday morning. After building my watch list, I do all of my scans. I do my carryover trades from the last couple of weeks. And then I have, this not master, but, watch list. It's got a ton of names in there. And Sunday really I use for my narrow down process. And what I'm going to do, most of these are marked up, but there's some of them that are new that don't have any markups. And I want you to really pay attention to how I mark these charts up, because for me, it's like leaving breadcrumbs for my trade ideas. What did I see on the chart when I spent, 1 or 2 minutes on it? Were there inside days? Were there specific candle formations or pattern formations, right? If you're gonna build a watch list and the watch list is like 10 to 20 names, you can't be expected to remember absolutely everything you saw and charted out on that particular name. So I feel like this process is really important to leave those breadcrumbs so that when the market opens up on Monday, or an alert goes off on Wednesday, and you come back to the chart, you're not hunting and pecking and having to reanalyze the chart to figure out what is it about that chart or that setup that clued you into a potential trade idea. So basically that's what I'm here to do. Like, look at the chart objectively and see what stood out to me. So let's go one by one. This is A-Lab. So A-Lab had a gap up on Friday. It gapped over the 1021 EMAs. It gapped over the swing low anchored VWAP, but it had an inverted hammer candle right in the top of the channel, as well as the swing high anchored VWAP. So I'm just going to put inverted hammer, rejection, and I just know that on Monday we're going to look for what this potential setup looks like. It looks pretty good still, but I also know that earnings are coming up, I think, on Tuesday, so we want to be mindful of that as well. All right, so AMD, looking at potential rising wedge here. All right, so I'm just going to put rising wedge. And why is this important? For AMD, when I zoom out, it looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let me fix this real quick. Wave 3 gap up, wave 3 of 5 gap up. So sometimes you see in a 5 an ending diagonal, and that's potentially what we're seeing here. And that looks like usually like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I'd be looking for potentially maybe a short idea on AMD, right? And I'll put let's say a level here at 241, and I'll just create an alert, and we'll have that alert go off on the 10 minute, and it'll say AMD ending diagonal. I'll put a question mark, short under 241.29. Right, and then we'll just revisit that if that comes to fruition next week, because the market is looking a little tired. I think, in thinking about the moves that we've seen over the last 2 weeks, there are fewer and fewer names that are pushing the market higher. And when you have that type of concentration, it just takes 1 or 2 of those names that are pushing the market higher to tumble, and then you're going to start seeing everything else kind of pull back. So AMKR, this is Amcor. And you'll notice some of the lines are a little off. It's because I've been charting with after hours on. And so you just want to be mindful, if you have after hours on, it's going to skew the data a little bit. I prefer to chart with the after hours off. This way you get the true data of what's going on, with the chart. So in this case, it looks like, potential wedge formation, a rising wedge formation, but what I'd be looking for here on Amcor would be a pullback into this zone right here. You've got a gap anchored VWAP, you've got a month to date anchored VWAP here. Now that month to date is going to reset as the new month of November opens up on Monday. So you also want to be mindful of that. Now, and this one also had a squeeze fire, and you can see from that squeeze fire, we've already made a decent move to the upside. BLFS, this one is inside of an anchored VWAP pinch, right inside here. So, what I'd be looking for is a potential back test. Now, we did get the back test right here, right? 3 days. And see, this is really important. When I was doing some of the charting on Saturday to look for these ideas, I put this note, and I would have missed it if I went through this quickly, but 3 days engulfing, right? So this is a bullish engulfing candle, and it engulfed these prior 3 days. So really important. This is a pretty bullish candle, and we want to make note of that and pay attention to it next week. All right, so COM